Alright. Oh yeah, killing the devil. Killing the devil is really easy, bro. You just have to understand what the devil is and what the devil feeds off of, okay? The devil's like an animal that constantly follows you around. You go here, he goes follows you. When he goes to the bathroom to jerk off, he follows you. He's like, haha, yeah, jerk off. Jerk off to Ava Adams. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, that's what the devil's like, okay? And you keep it's like a pet to you, essentially, right? You keep the animal alive. You're the one feeding the animal. And this is how demons work too, right? Demon, devil, same thing, right? And because of your depraved nature, you've been constantly feeding the devil over and over and over again. So we started off like this, right? Because we all inherit the original sins, right? So we all have this. Devil's always around, floating. No matter how good you are, the devil's always going to float around you. But then you start sinning, you start doing all this other stuff, and we'll get over to what feeds the devil. And it just gets larger, 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 larger. Eventually gets to the size of your penis like that, but then it gets larger, larger, larger than the size of my penis, and larger, 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 larger. And before you know it, it's an uncontainable beast, and that's when people start doing really bad things. Okay, but chances are you aren't there yet. And you know, depending on how good, quote unquote, the person you are, the devil will either be small to you or big to you. All right. So everyone has a different starting point when you're watching this video, but this example tells you exactly how the devil works. The devil is only as big as you let the devil be. The devil has contingent power. The devil can have this amount of power or this amount of power. It just depends on you and how much you have fed the devil. If you want, you can strangle the devil and you can also starve the devil. And then the devil won't really have any influence on you. It's going to be like this. I mean, imagine a little, it's like an ant. Does an ant really, do anything to you? Like, let's say an ant that doesn't even bite. That's how small the devil can be to you. So you can just, like, dead. Or if the devil, I mean, imagine ants. Imagine if ants could talk. Would even be able to hear the ant? That's how the devil could be to you. It just depends on your own mind. So, what feeds the devil is two things. Primarily two things. Sin and fear. Okay? And there's one way to get over both of these. And it's literally just Jesus told you actually how to defeat the devil. Okay? And that is, it's a two-step process. It's becoming a Christian and having God. Because how did Jesus defeat the devil in the desert, right? It was primarily because of his knowledge of what was right or wrong. Right? Quote of scripture. God. The devil is terrified of God. So that's the first thing. The second thing, which is more action on your part, is being in the moment. Jesus told you to worry about today and not tomorrow, for today tomorrow has its own worries. Worry about today. That's, I mean, really just a blueprint to life, but in this specific case, that tells you exactly how to get over the fear aspect of defeating the devil. Okay, because the sin aspect also works with this, being in a moment, because when you're in a moment, you also don't really sin as much. Sinning is really just a product of either being stuck in the past or being stuck in the future. Okay, so let's break this down. Let's break this down. And in okay, I'll save that for later. So let's say fear. Okay, fear is almost always because of you're fearing what's going to happen. Okay, so if you just live in a moment, I'll tell you how to live in a moment soon, right? But living in the future is always going to put you into a state of fear because the future is unknown, and inherently the unknown is fear. Invokes fear in humans because humans are naturally very pessimistic. Okay, if anything seems to be going somewhat wrong, we start going, "Oh, well, surely in the next few hours it's gonna get even worse," right? And then for sin, sin is being like narrow-sighted, right? Because actually, no, sin more has more to do. It's less about being in a moment, although being in a moment helps a lot. It's also about understanding your higher self, right? So, in order to communicate with your higher self, you have to. That goes through prayer, and when you pray, it's energy, frequency, and vibration, right? So, just you have to imagine your higher self and what he's like, and your higher self is just your soul, like the ideal you. You can communicate with your higher self when you pray. And communicating really just has to do with seeing your higher self in different situations and stealing the energy from him when you see what he does. And it's kind of like what the liberal retards do with manifestation. They see their higher self, quote unquote higher self, because they don't actually believe in God, so it's not really that, right? Actually that. But they see it and then they steal the emotion they have, so it's like energy for them. But it's the same thing for you, but you're just doing it in prayer, and that's the higher self. That's when you're like the best Christian you can be, right? So you're just trying to become the best Christian you can be when you're praying, right? So look at David. Look at David's Psalms, and you kind of see how he speaks very affirmative, very authoritative. That's the way you got to be in your prayer. And when you pray, it's like communicating with God, but communicating with God so you can communicate with your higher self, and then you try to become that by taking the power and energy from your higher self. And when I say power energy, I don't mean like you're causing it via magic, but it's like the state, the mental state, right? So that will help you deal with sin, because let's say you want to go jerk off to SpongeBob SquarePants. Yeah, I know you did that. Don't lie to me. You jerked off to SpongeBob, didn't you? You little nasty. Sandy cheeks. You're disgusting, bro, but when you did that, you were just feeding your flesh, right? It was just a short-term desire. Your higher self doesn't really care about that. It's like, sandy cheeks, or even if it's a hot girl. And even if it's a hot girl trying to lure you into her bedroom, it's like, nah, not my wife, not really worth it. She's no ring on her finger. She's not worthy of this massive penis I have. She just isn't worthy of it, bro. Now that's for a very special girl that I'll put a ring on. It's not for her. But your flesh is like, oh, horny, oh my god, boobs. That's the difference, bro. So when you communicate more with your higher self, you'll become more like your higher self, and it'll become easier not to sin. And every time you sin, it's like giving food to the devil. And the devil grows, right? And when you really partake in these two practices and being in the moment, I should have said this when I was talking about the communication with the higher self. When you communicate with the higher self, you have to say, I am. Okay? I am, be in order to become. So you become your higher self literally in your own head, right? You become, and now you're in the present moment. In the present moment, you are whatever you want to be. If your higher self is a fitness influencer who's saving hundreds of thousands of lives from obesity, if that's what you want to do, you are that guy now. So not only are you going to start acting like and actually start building your fitness influencing gig, but also you will be your higher self in the moment, and your higher self lives in a moment. Your higher self lives without fear, so you yourself will stop living in fear. So as you deal with sin and fear, that's how you kill the devil. You do this long enough, you don't feed into the fear, you don't feed into the sin, you don't give the devil his food, it's going to get smaller, and smaller. And then, you won't even hear him. And that is very relieving.